Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of Maps Are Dead. I'm your host, Mike D. This was a podcast all about how to develop an internal compass to navigate your world when the maps that we used to get here have kind of ended. We've kind of run off the map. So the idea of maps are dead is this idea of the world's kind of run off the map, and what do you use to navigate now? And so we believe you have to develop your own internal compass. We use CliftonStrengths of the Dauphinee Group to help us do that. And so these are live, unscripted conversations with friends and colleagues and different people, professionals and people I've never met before. But we usually grab their CliftonStrengths themes and then ask them questions about how they navigate. I am incredibly excited. As a guest today is a good friend of mine and one of the coaches from the Dauphinee Group, an associate of ours and a long-term friend, Barbara Macnish. Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's absolutely delightful to be here.
It's going to be fun. We go back way, way, way back. Even before, I wasn't really coaching. I was doing some just strengths workshops way back in the day. And we met. And so you're aware so people can understand the glorious accent. Because I always say, Barbara makes me sound stupid just by speaking because we Americans love a good British accent. Where are you, Barbara?
I'm in North Yorkshire in the UK.
In the North Yorkshire,
Not
UK.
far from Harrogate and York and
Yep.
other beautiful towns.
Up north. And
Up north.
Not quite north, right? It's not considered north, is it?
Well,
Is it
it
sort of
is
considered?
considered north, unless you're in Northumberland or Scotland, and then we're lousy southerners.
Okay. Unless you're... Exactly. See, people in the States don't understand the thing that the American North and South has kind of flipped. The
Yes.
American South is the British North.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the whole thing. So up north, Barbara and I, so we've been friends a long time. We've known each other quite a bit. Your husband is a good friend of mine. But I remember us meeting and talking strengths for the first time. I think we were at a conference together in Hungary. How many years ago? Was that Hungary or was that Portugal?
Portugal, I think, was
Portugal.
the first time we met. Yes.
How many years ago was that now?
Man. So I think it was 2007 or something.
7 or 8. Yeah. I think it was
Maybe.
7.
Yeah.
Man, we're coming up on 20 years, Barbara.
Oh,
Wow. After that, you went off and became a Gallup-certified strengths coach. You started TriQuester Teams, which you still operate. And in that, I remember talking to you about you were doing things for communities, centers, churches, doing coaching and things of that nature. And then as the Dauphinee Group started to expand after 2022, people are like, hey, you're great, but we would like to have other people that aren't you. And I was like, and you were my first phone call. So
yeah. Amazing.
you were literally, I think the team now is up to almost 10, but you were person 1.
I will take that as a massive vote of confidence and brilliant.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And so before we dive in, for those of you listening who aren't watching, Barbara's themes, and we'll call these out throughout the day, throughout the conversation, we've got connectedness, communication, developer, empathy, individualization, and we throw in her strategic arranger because it's not in the top 5, but it's definitely shows up all the time. So connectedness, communication, developer, empathy, individualization, with some strategic arranger thrown in. Barbara, as a coach, I like to start these conversations. We're going to have a different conversation a little bit because we can talk about, I want to hear about things you learn and see, but for yourself, but also with your clients. But I like to start with a big question of, what is there a moment that stands out to you when you realized that you had to make a decision based on your own compass because there was no map and no one could tell you what to do? And there wasn't necessarily right and wrong, but you had to navigate, not just choose. Mm. And is there anything stand out to you of moments, it could be professional or personal, where you're like, this is something that really stood out to me. I've realized, yeah, only I can make this choice.
Well, the first one that sprung to mind was actually the decision about whether to marry Kevin, my husband.
Oh, nice.
So basically, back in the day, I had these great idealistic dreams of working overseas, doing developmental work in sort of faith-based organizations. And I was absolutely sort of focused on that was going to be what I did with my life. And when I met Kevin, he was on a completely different trajectory.
Yeah.
One that I can't tell you, or we'd have to shoot all the viewers.
We'd have to shoot all of you. There's things that involve intelligence and secrecy and all that stuff that we won't talk about.
Yeah. Exactly. So, not exactly the partner in crime that I was looking for.
Not the
Um,
faith-based missions guy.
um, and also he was a Christian, but quite a new
Sure.
believer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, how is this going to work? And I remember just thinking, this doesn't fit the map. My
Yeah.
map was, I'm going to do this. I'm going to meet this amazing person and we can partner and have the same ideas about what our lives are all about. And, but Kevin was just a brilliant fit personally.
Yeah.
I mean, really well. We are so different. His top
Very.
strengths are all in the strategic thinking
Yeah,
zone.
like the intellection, analytical learner stuff,
Totally.
is Kevin.
But but we just clicked, and
Yeah.
I knew this was the person I wanted to be with. So I was in this
Yeah.
sort of quandary of which of these things should I give my life to? I have this dreadful idealistic idea that I should sacrifice my own happiness all the time for the greater good.
That's a good connectedness trait, right? Connectedness is like, I should sacrifice for the cause.
Yes, of course.
I'm making the world better by denying myself. It's
Yes.
it's a story we tell ourselves, right?
Yes, exactly. And also this sort of sense of, I don't have futuristic hide, but I think I do
Mm.
have imagination about
Yeah.
uh, what's supposed to happen, or what I want to do to make whatever
Mm.
happen. So yes, and I remember just kind of bringing this to my mum and talking it through
Mm.
with her, and her basically saying, look, there isn't a right or wrong. You're
Yeah.
not ditching all that is meaningful to you if you choose
Yeah.
this relationship. But equally, if you choose to take this path and not take this relationship, it's okay. But either way, you can't actually know what the next steps are going to be and where your future is going to end up. Either way, it's a leap of faith. And
Yeah.
so I just reeled it all back in and just went, well, this is the person I want to be with. I'm going to be with him, and
Yeah.
we'll work out the future together.
That's awesome. And I think, what's interesting, even as you talk about, like, to your mom's comment, I think about, I always say this podcast with, hey, name a big moment or the first moment when you realized that you had to make a decision that no one else could tell you what to do. And I've started saying in the last couple of recordings, where there also is no right or wrong. I kind of just threw it in. It came to my head. But it's fun. It's interesting to think about the moments of navigation in our life. Marrying someone, taking a job, quitting a job, moving, having family, choosing, to invest in certain things or not, or to delay certain things or not. Do you find, as much as I do, how much there actually, it's a rare day that there is a right and wrong answer to these big
Absolutely.
moments, right?
Yeah. I think as a parent, you feel that more and more as well.
Yeah.
Like, again, you can start out with this sense that parenting can be done the right way or the wrong way.
Right.
But as you navigate each individual child and each
Mhm.
situation they're in, and you just realize, I mean, there's some principles, but maps
Yeah.
are not helpful, and you often end up feeling every decision is definitely an inner compass thing.
Yeah, because I think part of the challenge is that if it had a right or wrong answer, then it's simply a matter of research,
Yeah.
right? And so I'll research someone else's version of, it is right to do this, it is wrong to do this. So I have to simply figure out. So surely, if I don't know what's right and wrong in this choice, it's because I don't have the data. I will simply research the answer, find the answer of, oh, ta-da, there it is, like a math problem, and there's
Yeah.
the right one. But if we realize the majority of the moments we're navigating are not binary, as they would say, or dualistic, or one or the other,
Yeah.
then the conversation can't be about right or wrong. Even though the number one thing people say, I don't know if it's the right thing. And I'm like, that right there shows we're at the wrong place. But if it's not about right or wrong, then it is about trade-offs and costs and options. So shouldn't we instead be saying, I should start with what I'm willing to trade off, what I'm willing to pay, what it will cost me
Yeah.
first, and then look at the options of, well, this trade-off comes with this price tag and this trade-off comes with this price tag. But I don't feel like we start that way.
No, I don't think so. And I think that sense of actually starting with what is true to myself, like what
Hmm.
decision is more authentic to me. Um, that's not something. Yeah, I think we're so sort of. I think so much of it comes from wanting to conform as well to the world around us, to the things other people are telling us are right or wrong, and
Yeah.
that ends up shouting to us more than perhaps the better, truer parameters of a decision.
Yeah. And it's so interesting too. I think even like you said, the way you started out, you're like, I have this story in my head of the life I want to live.
Mm.
And it's this idea. And I think, you and I share communication
Yeah.
as a theme. And so I always tell people, congratulations, you just hired a coach who has no strategic thinking themes. Because I have in the 4 domains of Clifton Strengths, I have no strategic thinking themes. Whereas my friend and your husband has pretty much all of them
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
in his top 10. I'm like, he's killing me. But I said, the good
But
news is my communication theme is my strategic thinking theme.
yes.
Is that I go back to my literature classes of every story has a setting, characters, an arc,
Yeah.
victim, villain, hero, guide, all these different parts. And so I see both clients and situations in that framework.
Mhm, mhm.
But I think what's interesting is I can take that and I can act like my own life is a story that I can write,
Yes.
when I think instead it almost has to be a story that I capture
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
live.
Oh, I love that. I wonder if some of it is phase of life as well. Like I
Mm,
think, in the early parts of our life, we're so
yeah,
busy focusing on building and being in control and deciding what we're doing with ourselves. I think we reach a
yeah,
certain point where you've been beaten enough that you look back and say, well, if I'm going to thrive in this part of my life,
right,
I'm going to be much more um open-handed and
yeah.
available to the meaning that's in front of me and the people that are in front of me rather than the sort of idea that I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, there's been a theme. I'm having so many conversations right now. We record all of our podcast episodes ahead. So we'll record like 10 at a time and then start to roll them out in March. But it's interesting to even say that the open handedness, the ability to learn to be open handed, I'm finding is only coming. I'm 51, maybe 52 in a few months. I'm realizing that I'm barely learning what it means to not judge every choice I make.
Yeah.
And when I hear open-handed, I'm like, yeah, 'cause I'm like, what prevents me from being open-handed? Well, I'll judge whether or not something should or shouldn't be mine, or whether I
Yeah.
should hold on to it or not, or if it's the right or wrong. And in that process, how do you find that you've had to make progress in your own life about learning to not judge your choices, or knowing when's a moment you shouldn't be judging? Does
Mm.
judgment play out in any of that open-handedness?
I think it does, definitely. I think coming from a very evangelical background, there is a lot in that world that
Mhm.
is about right and wrong. This is the
Right,
right way to interpret this scripture. This is the right behavior to do. This is,
right.
there was a moment sort of 7 or 8 years ago where that structure for me stopped working and
Mhm.
basically sort of crumbled. And I think in that moment, I had a really strong visual in my head of I'd been on this trajectory, these train tracks. I knew what I founded my life on and how it worked.
Yeah,
And yet I was going off on this siding or something, this
yeah,
curved track, and I could see the cobbles underneath that track were all broken and there were puddles and it looked very unattractive because it wasn't the direction that I had wanted to go and was really sure about. And all the unsureness and all the deconstruction and
yeah,
challenge which came with that period. And that period was very much just understanding my kids' neurodiversity, their mental health challenges, their
sure.
sexuality, all of that was a huge part of just reframing meaning and the belief and
Yeah,
faith.
yeah,
And I think that was a really amazing, though very, very uncomfortable learning time about becoming open-handed, about saying like, okay, I'm not on the trajectory I would have chosen, where my
Yeah.
kids are thriving. They're going to Oxford University. They're doing this, they're doing it.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to, right now, I don't have the capacity to run a multi-million pound business or anything like that. I'm on this siding where my kids need most of my energy.
Mhm.
They are not thriving at all, and my faith isn't answering my questions anymore.
Yeah.
So that time, um, yeah, was just a great training, I suppose.
Yeah. It's interesting too how it ends up. I think we get different moments, right? It's a gift when we can come to that place without catastrophe,
Yes.
right? Most times we all need catastrophe. Most of the times we don't change without it. But it's so interesting that you talk about that. We have a mutual professional contact that we've known for years, you and I, Mike Haas. Remember Mike Haas?
Yeah.
Mike's great. Mike, and I remember talking to Mike. Mike specialized in it. He was a therapist specializing in addiction in Colorado. And one of the things we used to talk about is how many times he would, a lot of his clients would be court appointed. So they would have been convicted of something and have to do court appointed drug and alcohol substance abuse therapy. And he would often say to them, he would tell me at different times, well, if your drug is working, keep using it.
Yeah.
And not like he's not saying that he's saying that, but I'm kind of
Yeah.
paraphrasing. Please don't say Mike saying that.
Yeah,
But
no,
this
no.
idea of like, but he's saying, well, is it working for you?
Mm.
Well, if it's working, I suppose, and it's like, hey, like almost like kind of turn him over. I had a grandmother who would say, well, just turn him over to Satan, I guess, like let him go. And the thing, but it's this idea of, and it's so much of like, well, but is it working? It's like, is that thing working?
Yes.
And I had a golfer, Damon Goddard was on last season, and we talked. He works with professional golfers, and they talk about how when they get hurt, they adjust things to try to compensate for the pain. And he's like, I always tell them, every compensation stops working eventually.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is this idea of to try to get free of judging the choice is to go, wait a minute, is it still working for me?
Yeah.
And so many times I'll meet clients who are angry and frustrated about how they're showing up in their life and their job, but they don't yet ask themselves, is this actually still working anymore?
Yeah.
Is me controlling the whole world? Is me focusing on what to do and not focusing on vision working? And they don't even ask, is it working? And I think we have to ask ourselves, do the frameworks we're holding on to function? What am I getting out of them? And is it what I want?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I think that sense of, I extrapolate it a bit further as well, like in the strengths language of, is this bringing life to me? And in that case, I would have still said yes, but is it
Yeah.
bringing life to everybody else? And it wasn't. So it's a
Right.
sort of both and, isn't it? Of like,
Yeah.
okay, this isn't working for us. So
Yeah.
we have to find a new way.
What frameworks? Barbara, you make a decision. I mean, you've done a lot of different things. And like I mentioned, you started TriQuester Teams and you got your Gallup-certified CliftonStrengths coach. You're really involved in the Gallup coaches space in the UK and Europe. What do you remember how you chose to become a coach? Was that something you knew you wanted to do? Or was that something you were just going to add to your life on the side? Because how did that occur for you?
I was going to say, if we get to talk about this, I'll have to be horrendously un-British and start gushing about how amazing you are, Mike.
Oh, please. But yeah, you can be great. I shouldn't understate it. Mike was fine. He was a random person I met, and he gave,
I always knew I wanted to work with people. I was always enjoy people's stories and listening to people. That's always been an MO for me. And so when I was in my late teens, early 20s, the thing I thought that meant was counselling. So I trained to be a counsellor, but I pretty quickly knew that it wasn't the right fit. My particular brand of empathy left sessions more drained than energized. But I didn't really know about coaching at that point. I didn't know it was a thing. So the first exposure to it was the strength session that Kevin and I had with you in Portugal, when you basically picked us up off the floor, and it was transformative. It was just this one session was amazing, and really helped us change trajectory, decide what we needed to do next, because you put in our hands truth about ourselves that helped us reframe.
That's great.
So, and
Thank
that
you.
moment was definitely the moment I went, I want to do what he does.
I didn't realize that. I was like, wow, okay. Because I remember the conversation and you telling me later it was important, but I didn't realize that your coaching desire
Yeah.
started there. Wow.
Yeah. But like you said, I was not at all confident about it. I didn't really know what,
Yeah.
this is 20 years ago.
Sure.
There weren't tons of courses around.
No.
It wasn't really a
No.
profession in the same way.
No.
So I went into it via working with teams using CliftonStrengths. So I was doing one-to-ones, but I didn't really think of it as coaching. And I did a lot more team coaching. So I was coaching, but a whole
Yeah.
group of people. And so I actually think the expertise in one-to-one coaching I've developed more, probably in the last 7 or 8 years more. Um, but it's just a joy, doing
Yeah.
something is a fit is so fantastic. I absolutely love it.
I feel the same because it was funny. I remember. So again, I have a client who's in the U.S., but there are other big offices in Europe, and so they were like, "Do you have other coaches?" And that's when I reached out and you and I began a conversation. And I remember the conversation because at the time you were doing a lot of things in community and churches and nonprofits and faith spaces, and you're like, and it was a little bit of, but Mike, can I coach into
Yeah.
the corporate setting and the tech? I mean, I look back now and I laugh because now I realize at the time, and honestly, Barbara, at the first I was like, well, man, I'm like, she has just a nonprofit and I'm like, and she's so relational. She has all these relational themes. I was like, I don't know, but I guess we'll try. My faith in you, but I'm like, but honestly, you and I were both, I have activator command. I'm like, we'll figure it out no matter what. But I was like, yeah, I wonder. And I kind of crack up now because I want to talk about this, especially in light of your strengths themes, is that you are very relational. Again, strategic arranger is amazing. You leverage it so well, but your world shows up. Communications about understanding, connectedness is big picture and cause. You have empathy, which is about actual understanding of human need. Developer is progress and growth. Individualization sees uniqueness. These are relational themes. And Barbara, multiple years in now, I now actively give you finance engineers and tech people with deep thinking themes because I just crack up because they really love working with you and you're incredibly good with all of these not necessarily relational strengths type individuals.
Yeah.
Like, how do you leverage? Because I know people will be like, well, I'm so relational. I wish I had these hardworking themes. I wish I had these themes or these themes. You are very relational and clear on cause and understanding and are incredibly effective with people who are high executing, high influence.
Thank
How have
you.
you navigated that?
I guess I wonder if it's my connectedness being number one. I absolutely believe in the humanity of everyone and the equality of value of everyone.
Mm.
And I also think that connectedness really does love the world of ideas as well. Like although I don't have thinking themes very high up from strategic, I'm really drawn to thinkers, to ideators, to I married one.
Yeah,
I
clearly.
love philosophical conversation.
Mm.
I like wrestling with those things, and I also love strategy. So anyone who is leading others, it's all relational in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love to get at it through the way they turn up. And I think that's, again, my individualization,
Yeah.
being really intrigued by what makes people tick. So if they're different to me, even better.
Yeah. But that can, and I heard a guy one time say, I don't know if it was actually true or not, but they say that when they were first cutting the domains at Gallup,
Mm.
that connectedness skews very, very close to the line on strategic thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's described very much as spirituality and cause and care for the world and an interconnectivity of all things. It's seeing of patterns and philosophies and the unseen
Yes.
is what makes it exceptional. So I often will say it is really the multifaceted thinking theme.
Mm.
It just, instead of being cut and dry, it will take in the non-empirical unseen
Yes.
in its thinking.
Yeah.
And
The
I really
imaginary, you might say.
that.
The imaginary, you might say.
No, it's not the imaginary. Now, I don't think the imaginary because I think gravity is real, even though it's unseen.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
think
think
it's the
that's
thing
the
that
thing.
means people can make leaps, and
Yeah,
I'm sure it's there in great thinkers'
yeah,
genius.
yeah. When you when you think about as a coach, what feels like success for you professionally? We often, one of the jobs we have as coaches, right, is to like we're simultaneously asked to feel connected to and support, like, wow, we helped our clients achieve, while also
Mhm.
at the same time knowing that we can't actually do for them at all. We
Yeah.
sit in this tension of your results are your results because you did the work,
Yes.
but people will be like, well, what results have you achieved for a client? I mean, I laugh. I just got done telling somebody, so the Olympics are going on right now as we record this. And I found myself saying, yeah, one of my clients, they won a silver medal this week. Now, not Mac Foreman, a big air freestyle skier, won silver medal. Now, I have done CliftonStrengths with his coaches multiple times. They have coaches, so, I've gotten really great ski gear out of it, but I'm like, ooh, they're a client. Like, be like, oh, one of your clients. I'm like, did I have an impact on somebody? 2 people removed? I don't know. I like to claim it a little bit, but like in the distance, so we
Yeah.
have this weird space of we claim a thing and we do have impact on it. But for you, what are moments that you're like, these are the moments with coaching that keep me excited about coaching? This is something I see in my clients that when I see them make this either step growth or something that feels meaningful to you that keeps you re-engaged and wanting to be a coach.
Oh, I love that question. And it does make me think about the times when, so you can leave a session with this sense of, oh, that was a fantastic session. They really
Yes.
made progress. But in the end, it's what happens to them. And the other sessions you can leave thinking, I think that was completely useless. But then the coachee tells you later,
Yep.
that really made me think, and I've done this and this and this since then. So I always have the caveat that most of the best thinking happens after a coaching session.
Yeah.
But I think that various things are why I keep wanting to be a coach. So one is creating a space where people feel emotionally safe. I mean, that's hugely a part of how I'm wired, to look at things that are difficult or challenging, but in a way that feels safe, or as
Yeah.
safe as it can be. Um, to therefore shift thinking patterns or shift habits,
Yeah.
so that there is, I suppose, my developers happy with small amounts of transformation, but
That incremental
transformation is
improvement
still
with
the thing.
developers.
You
Yeah.
want the transformation.
Yeah. That incremental improvement space. But I think you're right. And it's interesting. You and I have had this conversation as we've debriefed some of the clients you've worked with, is that some people, it's amazing to me how often people aren't used to feeling safe.
Mm.
And they'll actually, I think we have one client in particular that comes to mind that didn't really progress with us, that had a really good session and suddenly felt, wow, this is a really deep, safe conversation, but it was almost too much vulnerability and they couldn't come back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I think this is one of my, when I think about my strengths and what they do, I actually think they're better at absorbing information than they are at synthesizing or making decisions. I don't think my decision making capacity is my best best quality. But I think that when I go deep really quickly.
Yeah.
For many people that feels great, but for some that feels scary, and that can be
Yeah.
too much. Too much.
But I think, which is why though, I ultimately feel that when it comes to high performance coaches who are like, or individuals who want to really go, I really want to not get stuck in the same ruts. I want to not get stuck in the same distractions. What is interesting is I really believe, Barbara, it requires someone like you to be their coach with the connectedness or the individualization or something that can go deep. Because what we don't realize is most of our roadblocks or most of our repeated ruts or patterns of stuckness or places where we continue to fall off track is because it is a routine that is seeking to have a need met, and the routine is no longer meeting the need. But that means we have to go, what am I trying to win? What is the deep need that this routine is trying to meet? And that requires actually going, well, I think I need something. And somebody going, well, why do you need that? What's the story?
Yeah.
What's the pain? What's the lie? What's the concern? What's the hope that is at the base of that? And that's 3 levels below
Yeah.
yep, I will get working on a thing and then I'll quit too soon. And then, well, it's a deeper question.
Mm.
I think people don't realize that. And I feel like your connectedness makes it safe enough if they're really willing to go there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting, is it? Because I feel like I was trying to work out what my ideal client is recently,
Yeah.
and thinking about how do I turn up. And again, I think my strengths tend to not like closing off options. I know I can coach anyone. I could,
Possibility.
it's fine. I
Yeah.
love coaching my young 20s. I love coaching women. I love coaching men. I love coaching professionals. I love coaching.
Yeah.
Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But I think that while I do really enjoy the long-term clients where we're just sort of doing day-to-day stuff, we're
Yep.
troubleshooting management issues, or we're thinking about team members, I still think that the client that wants to do that deeper work is the joyous one.
Yeah. Because I even, I think at this point in our careers, you and I have both been doing this a while now. The question of can you coach almost anyone is no longer the question.
Mm,
It's what's the best focus, what do I get the most joy out of? If
mm,
I could start to bend my client list that way.
mm,
And I would be interested for you as a coach with developer in the
mm.
midst of things going, I'm most alive coaching people who have capacity to be authentic and real and share at the very least, a hunger to grow in whatever form that exists.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's
Right.
not a matter of you can't coach people, but having to convince them,
Mm,
having to show but if they can be authentic and grow, I think they're ready for someone like you to go,
mm,
well, just so you know, growth is going to come in places you didn't expect
mm.
because you have to grow in multiple spots. That's the one thing. I double majored in sports medicine, and they always talk, and people used to talk about you'd get guys who'd build certain muscle groups, especially guys in college, right? They want big chests and big arms, and their legs are this big, right? And they don't know the actual physical strength as a body requires all these pieces. And I
Mm,
feel like so many times you are such a holistic health, strong body, metaphorically speaking. People
mm.
come, well, I got to be a better manager of people. I got to have better boundaries. And you're like, yep. And we're going to talk about why you're afraid of this and why you choose this.
Yeah.
And that's going to help you create, it's a holistic, full body thing that
Yeah.
people aren't necessarily ready for. And I think if they're ready to grow and show up and deal with their challenges holistically,
Mm.
that's a sweet spot for you as a coach.
Definitely. I think as well that sense of them being part of something else bigger than just themselves. So
Yeah.
other moments of incredible satisfaction are when I feel like the work I've done with someone has had an impact beyond them. It's transformed the people around them, or their marriage, or their business, or whatever.
Yeah.
That sense of sort of going further than just a conversation.
And it's so interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. Excuse me. I was thinking about this the other day. I feel like we're on the cusp of hopefully a more integrated view of our lives, right? Somebody said to me once that the very first form of leadership or organizational development came out of the Industrial Revolution, and the only model before that was the military. And
Mm,
so from
yeah.
the top down,
Yeah.
you have a general, you have Alexander the Great trying to invade, leave Macedonia and do whatever and go after the Huns and go across Europe. You have the leadership, and then levels to the bottom of at the top, and then at the bottom, that whole strategy is broken down to a person marching with a stick. They have one job, they march forward with a stick and they point them with the pointy end. And so when the Industrial Revolution kicks in and they start to deconstruct, it becomes pieces of, well, you just tie this thing a million times because we're making shoes. You just do this one thing. And that becomes the mechanized way in which organizations of business create, to the point where we then get to the 80s and 90s, where I think we've broken leadership into people say, I want communication skills. And I'm like, we aren't that deconstructed.
Mm.
You can't communicate well
Yes.
if you can't think clearly.
Yes.
You can't communicate well if you are not getting proper sleep.
Yes.
You can't. And by the way, and why? You can communicate clearly and not be effective.
Mm.
And I think
Yes.
we're starting to suddenly realize that leadership and human beings
Mm.
as a person of growth, creativity, influence, impact, existence
Mm.
truly is more holistic. And if you can't deal with all those parts,
Yes.
you may get an adaptation that works a little while, but it runs out eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
I
feel like
love
that's part of the coaching that you do that's amazing to me, that I love.
that.
That's a sweet
Well,
I feel like that's a sweet spot.
it really, I think well-being conversations are for exactly that reason, that sense that actually how you are, you know, feeling about yourself and the world, how you're loving yourself, taking care of
Yeah.
yourself is crucial to how you're turning up in every other place.
Yeah.
And,
Because going to one more course on the 5 things you should say when so and so said, like, this
yes.
is
Yeah.
where tactics run out after a while.
Yeah.
You know, if the tactics don't shape everything else, if the tactic is to shape everything else, it's
Yeah.
finding the right trailing indicator, as they say,
Mm.
more so than going, yep, me saying the following phrase sounds right. It's like, no. Do you know why you're saying the phrase?
Yeah.
But, when you think, Barbara, about why does CliftonStrengths, why has this been the tool? Because, like, I'm sure a lot of times when people say to you a lot of things, I read all the time, people like, well, what about Myers-Briggs or Enneagram? And we are not tool snobs at the Dauphinee Group. We believe if you can find a tool that works, great. The tool is not the point for us. CliftonStrengths is something we are exceptionally good at. For you, why has this been? Because you stayed focused on CliftonStrengths with TriQuester Teams even before you came to become an associate with TDG.
Yeah.
Why? What is it for you that you find the power in for yourself when you look at CliftonStrengths?
Oh, so I'm a Myers-Briggs practitioner as well. And so
Yeah.
I've got a lot of familiarity with particularly that tool, but also Enneagram, also DISC,
Yep.
also one called the Gilmore-Fraley, which we use in conflict resolution circles. So yes, I'm not a tool snob, but I say that, but I think CliftonStrengths does kind of beat most of them into flinders or whatever you call it.
It's a little more
Whatever a
specific,
flinder is.
Flinder. We're going to assume it's a very cool British thing that we don't understand, but it's all great. A flinder is perfect. Beat them into flinders.
And I think it's because it's more complex. It's nuanced and it differentiates. I mean, you use that term, but it differentiates at a fine level in a way that the other tools don't. So because of that, there are some circumstances where I don't suggest it because it's too complex. It requires a lot of work in a way to get a team really using it well. But if they're willing to put the work in, it is more transformative for building strong relationships, for creating work partnerships, for self-development, other people development. It's absolutely brilliant for all of those things. And for creating a language that enables you to sort of name and label your own experiences in a completely non-judgmental way. And that's really helpful.
Yeah, so I love the idea. I think I say it quite a bit. I think my book Extraordinary was one of the opening quotes. The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their right name.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what CliftonStrengths actually did. Is I love the fact that it was kind of framed up on this idea of there are things you think, feel, and do for each theme.
Yes.
And so we can look at the descriptions, but if you imagine that every one of our themes have a thing you think, feel, and do, it suddenly gave me more specifics. I'm like, oh, there's an action. Even things that are feeling themes, it's not just executing themes aren't the only ones that have actions. It's the idea that the existence of this natural strength in my brain, this talent, as we would say, of individualization out of your top 5, like the existence of individualization in my head, while it is thinking and seeing and feeling about the uniqueness of people, it also means that you will choose to hunt for, which is an action, things that are unique.
Yes.
That are not necessarily your preference, your taste will be bent towards that which is not stereotypical and conformist.
Yeah.
And so you'll make decisions about that. And the ability to go, oh, it doesn't just create feelings. It actually drives motivation. It drives options.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've just launched what we're calling the Fit Forum on Circle at Circle Community. That the only entry point, again, is knowing your top 5. So it's actually, the entry point is free, but you get all these resources. But the reason why we're talking about fit is that, like, using CliftonStrengths to go, oh, it goes deeper than, oh, it's a thing that says this is something in your head. You're like, oh no, it lets you know why certain things fit you more, why this taste fits you better, why this opportunity fits differently. And I think I love the fact that like it is very specific. And I think you're right. I don't have the gift of, I'm not Myers-Briggs trained as much. I know Enneagram. I'm some training in Myers-Briggs, but I'll have to go to, for me, I'll reach for the Gallup domains as like the entry point level. They're really easy of like the 4 buckets.
Yes.
Even so, if I have to get somebody who's like not ready to deep dive, what exactly does my restorative strength mean?
Yes.
I will lean into, but are you more dominant executing or influencing? Are you, and use those buckets. But I really do believe there's something about the power of vocabulary and giving words to things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And yeah. Sorry, I had another thought and it's gone.
So, Barbara,
I think that was it. Along that naming thing, I think that one thing CliftonStrengths does is name things that when you haven't named them, you may dismiss them. So I think often I've met so many people who will be like, actually, this was my experience when I first did strengths before we had our coaching time with you. I just thought, well, this is a collection of words and doesn't really tell me anything I don't already know about myself. It wasn't until I sat with them and appreciated that this was a strength. It wasn't just a description. It's a strength. There's a reason why this can be made. This can produce life in me and life in people around me. And I think as people get that sense of, okay, yeah, this is me and I know this is me, but this is me and it's a good thing. That is such a joyful moment where people start to own the beauty, the gold of who they really are, the genius that they have, and how it's different to other people, and how that then means their contribution is different to other people.
It's true.
And I used to think it's like self-esteem in a bottle.
It can be, but I think it's so interesting because I felt the same way. And I've told people this before. When I took CliftonStrengths the first time, I remember taking it, not even reading it, and taking weeks because of something going on, and then reading it and being very, very angry. And I realized that I was angry kind of about the words, but I was mostly angry in the implication that I supposedly had all these strengths already. Yeah. Because it didn't fit with my personal narrative of I'm garbage and my only hope is scooping out all the crap inside of me and modeling myself into something pretty with knowledge, skill, and experience with the right degree and the right reputation. And that would somehow then turn me into value. And then my life would be easier, happy, and more fulfilled. And that was my hope. And because that was the path I was running on in my 20s. And so it felt incredibly frustrating for me to have something say, actually, you have great talent and it's there already. Because I'm like, my life didn't reflect feeling strong. Yeah. My life didn't reflect feeling happy. My life was all about want and need and frustration. And so I actually had to process through, I could have strength and not be perfect.
Yes.
I think we struggle with going, well, Mike, you're saying I have these strengths, but clearly if it was all going great, I wouldn't be talking to a coach. Yeah. We believe that if this really is existing, well, then everything else would just be fine. And I know people that have large bank accounts with plenty of resources. They can be generous around the world and change their communities, and they're still eating the same thing, living in fear, being like, it's crazy how much you can have resource and not use it. And that's how I kind of started looking at myself with strengths, was like, wait a minute, Mike, you can have strengths and not even know it, not using it, and not applying it to your life. That doesn't mean that you should deny they're there. You should start saying, how might I bring this resource to bear in my life? Yes.
I love that. That beautiful switch is just such an amazing thing, but not easy. That message that I'm crap, I'm worthless is deep, and I think it just takes a lot sometimes to reframe it, but I love that CliftonStrengths can help you get there.
Yeah.
And again, start celebrating them.
What I love too, though, and I think it kind of follows the fact that you and Katie and Dana and some of the earliest coaches that came on for the Dauphinee Group, is that we start with CliftonStrengths and go other places. Like we use it as vocabulary, much like learning vocabulary words allows you to write a better story, and that's all CliftonStrengths really does. And I think some of our clients sometimes are surprised by how deep the work goes, by how deep, even on Circle this week, we're posting questions and comments about people trying to change jobs and the frustration and fear of trying to change jobs. And we can give tactics of, well, here's how you take your strengths and think about what you're good at and apply for different roles and things like that. But there's something about asking the deeper question. What is the conversation you're afraid to have with your spouse about the fact that you would actually like to give your time to this, which means the job might pay less, or this, or you actually don't want to work in this industry anymore, and that's going to be risky for your family. And the tactics and the result of our efforts are always tied to a deeper motivation. And a coach like yourself, I really believe people have to sign up to go as deep as possible if they want to go out as far as possible. They have to go as deep as possible in to really get the result they want out. Yeah. And not everybody's ready for that.
No, exactly.
How do you take care of yourself in that space of living in imposter syndrome? When people who, you and I both have had experience of coaching people that are significantly fancier than us. They make way more money than us. They have degrees that we'll never have. But I know this because I've given you clients and we share, and I'm like, and to show up as a coach in that space, in that gap, because a lot of people will wait to help until they feel like they're perfect or worthy of being helpful. How has your journey been as a professional in what we call the helping industry?
Yes.
To deal with people who are in very different places in the world than you are?
I think it's interesting because I think being part of the Dauphinee Group has really helped. I think I started out really with quite high levels of imposter syndrome. But I think this sort of sense of actually people are people, and whatever their life involves, I can listen, I can ask questions, I can turn up and be present. And who doesn't want that? There's probably no one that doesn't want that. So I feel like I've got something to offer anyone that is of value. And I certainly sense that value myself. I just think, when you're with people who really listen, who really affirm, who really help you get unstuck, those are really amazing people. So, growing in becoming that has been really helpful to feel that, obviously there are misses, but to work on being that, I feel like anyone could do with that.
Yeah. I think you're right in that the idea healthy individuals come in community, really truly discovering this concept. I think for me, the Dauphinee Group exists because I enjoy the experience of all of you. I enjoy the experience of doing this in community so we can be mirrors to each other when we can't always see ourselves.
Yeah.
I think even in the profession of going, it's okay to realize I exist and therefore have value and can impact. And if I'm a good fit for the client, then great. And if not, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I wanted to create a team where you would all you're all very different. And what I love about our team is we're united around a love of our clients being able to see themselves and be courageous and generous with their lives. And you guys all show, but you're all very different, very different strengths. Yeah. And for me, it's the community around me that allows me to be the best version of me. And I said this again a couple times in podcast episodes. So in the last couple of days, it's so fascinating that in moments when only you can choose, the healthiest you has been shaped by others.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Oh, and I love our team. I mean, the way they show up and learn from each other, and I just, constantly like, oh, I wish I was like this and like this.
It's that ability to go, man, to see in other people and actually have them share perspective on what we're doing great, but also here's how my brain would approach it. I was talking to Katie Kennedy last night, who works in digital marketing and in space, and she's a great storyteller. And this idea of how every picture and every situation tells multiple stories, and letting ourselves believe that multiple stories are playing out. And I feel like that's what I learned so much from you and Destry and others on our team is the common question of my command comes in very hard with my command activator going, this is why it's happening. And to have Destry say to me, that's great. And could it be anything else? Could it mean anything else? And, that's part of the gift of her analytical to me, in how we speak. If you think about, in our last couple minutes here, when you think about people that you meet, who I'm sure people ask you for advice, you sit on boards of nonprofits and things like that in a lot of different places. Think about your own journey as a woman, as a person, as a mother and a spouse. When you find what is something that you're like looking over the course of this first half of my life, so to speak, here's something I've discovered allows me to feel like my life has meaning and this is something I protect. What's something that stands out to you? It's kind of a deep question, but I think you can handle that.
I don't know. I'm better at asking them.
Sure.
So I think, could you just ask the question one more time?
Sure. I'll ask it again. If somebody said, let me put it this way. What's something that has become a truth to you that stays anchored like a North Star as you're navigating that you didn't know, that's kind of developed over in the decades of experience of life, professionally and personally, that you're like, when I navigate, when I don't know what to do, this is the star I hold on to.
Yeah. Yes. I think there's a couple. I think the last few years have been very formative with my kids' journeys, which have been quite traumatic and really challenging. And I think I've learnt to trust my resilience and to trust if I need to stop, I need to stop, and to listen to myself. That's been something that's taken a lot of work because, I'm just very wired outward. I don't listen to myself very well. And I think a second thing is when life is really tough and challenging, and I don't have much energy. A coaching session energizes me. Being available to someone else's story always seems to help. And not that I coach for my own benefit, really, but we all do. But but I think there is just something amazing about shifting out of my story and into someone else's story, and I find that an incredible privilege and an incredible blessing.
Yeah, it is so true. And I've had this conversation at moments when your life has been chaotic or very demanding. And and actually I said to Destry one time, I said, I'm not sure if, if Barbara has capacity for some extra things, let's ask or whatever. And you've been like, actually, no, sign me up. Like it's still life-giving. And I'm like, that's great. I think for anybody who also has like connectedness as well as sometimes communication, it can be true where you go, well, I'm in stress mode. I should just tortoise, kind of pull in. And actually, I would encourage kind of what you're saying, actually find people that you can be connected to in those moments. Find people that you could serve and be kind for. It helps take the focus off and add new life and information and experience. Because I think connectedness has to feel that, hey, my situation is not the whole world. And so even in helping mode and work mode, it allows that in trickle of life and energy to help even manage that. But also I do like what you said, which is something I think we all need to realize is that our hope is not in the answer of whether or not you should marry Kevin being right or wrong.
Yeah.
In the hope of resilience of going, I can now trust that I can trust myself to be resilient even in situations that I can't possibly imagine I'd have to go through.
Yeah.
I think there's hope in that. So there's something about a compass that's based on that internal resilience versus in the internal belief I have all the right answers.
Yes.
Yeah. I got to tell you, the way your brain pulls the story together, and you even said it a second ago, and I'm like, hey, deep questions. You're like, I'm better at asking than answering. Just wrapping this up, I think there is something, I will say this, Barbara, and it's my chance. So you as a British person, you have to sit there with a stiff upper lip and smile. I think I think that is actually the hallmark of a great coach is the great question. And I feel like you are an expert at that. You are exceptional at seeing what we're not saying and we are saying and finding the question to ask while making it safe enough for me to come to discover the answer. And so I think that's part of what makes you a coach that I will literally put in front of anyone and someone I'll also ask for advice in my own life. So we're honored to have you on our team. I'm just so grateful that you're here. And I really appreciate making time sharing your world with us today.
Well, I so appreciate this chat. It's been delightful and being on the team is just the best. I
Well,
absolutely.
we couldn't do it without you, so we appreciate you there, and as, if you're following along at home, just want to say, it means a lot that you're here. We hope it's something, if you have communication, connectedness, developer, empathy, individualization, any of those themes, hopefully you heard something in here about growth and connecting with people and wanting things to serving the community and the world around you. Found something there inspiring? That'd be great. Leave us a comment. And this podcast is something we do literally just to try to provide another resource to help you navigate your life in a new way. And so please like, share, follow, do all the things you do in the comments below. We'll actually have more information about other free resources. Also, start to mention Circle. We have our community, the Fit Forum, which is all about leveraging your CliftonStrengths to find places that fit more, I don't want to say more efficiently, but when something fits, it fits. Whether that's your profession, we call it profession and purpose, your physical health, your relational health, your financial health, your community. We are building a community where we talk about that and support each other. We have free resources, different tiers of access, but you get access to myself. Barbara's in there as well. You can chat with our other coaches. There'll be a link in the bottom in our description as well. Click on that. Come check us out over at the Fit Forum on the Circle platform. So, Barbara, thank you again for staying up late. Well, it's not quite late, but taking the evening, afternoon of your day to be with us. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mike.
See you all next time.